Alrighty, so first news of the week, episode of 2024, and judging by there's a wall of text on this board, you know that there's been a lot of news that has happened around MLS in just these last couple of days, and that I actually tried my best in terms of fitting everything on one board. I didn't want to do like two boards like I usually do, and I think I just about did so. Like I literally had to write the text relatively small near the bottom because I just want to make sure I fit everything on the board so that I don't have to basically stop the recording and then start the recording again and basically change boards. But that being said, in terms of some of the news, and we start off with head coaching news, and it seems like DC United is pretty close of getting their new head coach as they are close to name Troy Lesesne as their new head coach. Now, Troy Lesesne, I think he did a good job doing his time with the New York Red Bulls. I mean, judging by the fact that the Red Bulls didn't really give him too much resources to go, and yet he still were able to keep the streak alive of them making the playoffs for the 14 consecutive season. I think he did a good job, and I think he's an up and coming head coach that could do very well in MLS. Now, I will say that Troy Lesesne kind of did something that you usually see what head coaches do when they come into a team where in the beginning of his tenure it could be very good because you get the new head coach boost that could happen, and the Rebels definitely got that new head coach boost from Troy Lesesne, and they look really good in the first couple of games. But as the his tenure goes along, things kind of slow down a little bit. But still, I do think that he could be a good coach, definitely better than what Wayne Rooney is, and that I think it's safe to say that when DC decided to take a gamble and decided to give one of their fan favorite a chance to coach the team, yeah, I think we can now safe to say that that was not a great idea because in other news, Wayne Rooney, after he left DC and decided to go back to England and decide to coach Birmingham City, he just got fired after just 15 games with the team. So yeah, that just shows you that yeah, Wayne Rooney probably is not as good of a head coach as you think, and this is also an example of just because you have a player that is a legendary player and is going to go down as one of the best number nine in the world that is Wayne Rooney, doesn't mean he's going to be a good head coach. I mean, not everybody is going to be like Zinedine Zidane that immediately goes to a club and decided to win Champions League left or right. Though you could argue that Zidane was already put in a good position with him being at Real Madrid, and that yeah, if you as long as you show some competent move and you're at Real Madrid, you're definitely going to win some Champions League. But anyway, let's move on before we got too off topic in terms of what we're going to talk about in terms of these MLS news. So now let's talk about some of the signings. So the big signing that happened today is Cincinnati. So they have announced that they have signed Miles Robinson off of free agency. So for a while there was wondering who exactly is going to get the Miles Robinson sweepstake, as Atlanta is going to hold on to him, or is he going to go to Europe, or is he going to go to FC Cincinnati, as there was a lot of reports that that was going to be the case, and indeed that is the case. And I know that Miles Robinson, he definitely had a down year last season, but there's no doubt that I think that he could bounce back, especially with the way that if he wants to play himself back to the national team. I mean, he definitely hope that he's going to have a good season, and that it's also not too late for him to make his jump to Europe. I mean, I know he's getting into his mid 20s, and that usually that's kind of around the time where you see players that have developed well in MLS and they decide to make the big move to Europe so that they can be a regular with the U.S. men's national team. But I still think this is a good move for Miles Robinson, especially going to a team like FC Cincinnati, an MLS Cup contender, and the fact that Cincinnati has already had a really good back line, so he's going to have to be competitive in terms of actually getting himself locked in that starting role. I think this is a good move for Miles Robinson going to FC Cincinnati. And then DC United have announced they have signed Brazilian midfielder Gabriel Perini from Santos FC. And by the way, this week, I don't know what is it with MLS and the Brazilian league in these last couple of days, but it feels like they formed a partnership in the last couple of days where we've seen players that decide to go to the Brazilian league, and then we also see players that is coming to the Brazilian league, and this is of course an example of that. Now, usually when you get a guy from Santos, it's going to be a good player because Santos, they do produce some really good talent. I mean, heck, that's the club that Pele basically came from, and also the club that Neymar used to play and kind of made himself a name. But unfortunately, as you probably know, Santos kind of have hit a hard time in the last couple of years. In fact, they got relegated this season. And that this guy was part of the team that got relegated, and I've heard that he's not really that good, and at time was a liability. So yeah, this is definitely a questionable signing for DC, but we'll see whether or not if he will do well once he comes to MLS. Now, Orlando City have officially acquired Ivan Angulo on a permanent transfer, and before they, of course, acquire him on a loan deal, but now they have made it a permanent deal, which that is definitely good news for Orlando City because Ivan Angulo was a huge part to this team last season, and it was a no-brainer for them to make him a permanent deal. And then LAFC have announced they have officially sold Diego Palacios to Corinthians. So here we go. Here's another MLS player that is going to Brazil, and that there's been a lot of report that who exactly is going to win the Diego Palacios sweepstake. Is one of these MLS teams going to get him, or is he going to be going to Brazil? As there's a lot of reports saying that that is the case, and now of course it is official. Though again, that doesn't mean that I would say that this maybe is the right move for LAFC. Again, I'm kind of surprised they decided to let go of Diego Palacio, consider he is very important to that team, especially in the defensive area, and replacing him is not going to be easy. But yeah, we'll see. I think it's probably just that LAFC realized that Corinthians probably paid them a lot of money to get him, and that was just a price that was too good to not turn down, and that kind of forced them to make the move and decided to sell one of their more talented player in their roster down to Brazil. But still, it is going to be a tough job for LAFC to try to replace the present that Diego Palacios definitely left on this team. And then former RSL striker Rubio Rubin have decided to join Querétaro in Liga MX. Remember when Rubio Rubin break into the scene and he had that incredible first season with RSL where he scored double-digit goals in the team, and we thought that he was going to be an up and coming number 9 in the league. Yeah, it didn't happen. I mean, second years he basically suffered what you call the second year syndrome and a sophomore slump to a point where he pretty much was a non-factor. I mean, I would say that you could argue he probably is an example of a one hit wonder, or 1 year wonder in this case, and that he had that great year in when he came to RSL, and pretty much he just disappeared for the rest of the time, and it's no surprise RSL decided to not retain him, and that I'll wish him the best in terms of him going to Liga MX and going to Querétaro, because if we can I can't believe he was such a great player in that one season that he was with RSL, and they just never able to rediscover that. And another player that was kind of a 1 year wonder is Jimmy Chara. So remember when the Timbers got Jimmy Chara, and then you got the Chara brother being there, and we had like that great combination between the Chara brother that the Timbers has had. Well, unfortunately, that's not going to be the case anymore, as the Timbers have announced that they have transferred Jimmy Chara to Junior FC, and this is the right move because Jimmy Chara has really not lived up to the expectations that the Timbers has had. And again, he's kind of like Rubio Rubin, where he had that one good year when he come to the Timbers, and then things kind of fall apart after that, and not to mention also suffering from injury problems. That it was also one of the problem for him throughout his tenure with the Portland Timbers. But yeah, again, wish him well. See if he can rediscover that his good form that he had when he arrived with the Timbers. Now that he's going to be going back down to South America. But moving on, in terms of contract extension, there was only one player that got a contract extension in these last couple of days, and it's Emmanuel Boateng, as the New England Revolution decided to re-sign him on a new contract extension. I believe the contract is actually on league minimum, so he's only going to be making 90Ks, which I think that is great value, because Emmanuel Boateng, very underrated player in terms of a good utility piece for this Revs midfield, and that again, I think this is a good signing, and consider we have seen other teams decide to overpay players that are utility pieces or guys that just doesn't work out. Even if Emmanuel Boateng might slow down heading into this season, at least they're not gonna have to worry too much because they're not really paying him that much, and also it doesn't really take too much space in terms of the cap space. But now moving on in terms of the next news, and now let's get to the transfer rumors. And boy, oh boy, we definitely had some spicy transfer rumors that has happened in the last couple of days. And who would have thought that the Colorado Rapids would be in the center of attention in terms of some some really interesting transfer rumors. So first of all, there's a report saying that they are going to set to sign Zach Steffen from Middlesbrough, and actually I wrote middle there. I got to write the full name of it. Let me finish that. Middlesbrough. Gotta give respect to them too, knowing the fact that they used to play in the Premier League, but now they're playing in the Championship. And then there's also reports saying that the Rapids is looking to win the Djordje Mihalovic sweepstakes. So Djordje Mihalovic just looked like he's gonna come back to MLS. Where he's gonna go? Well, it's gonna be the Colorado Rapids because it looked like they're gonna sign him on a club record fee. And the Rapids, I've said this before, they're a team that know how to get some of these players that used to play in MLS and basically get them for a low price and then they turned out to do very well, and it feels like it's kind of almost the same now, although I would say that even with this is definitely if you're a Rapids fan, this feels kind of weird seeing your team start to spend some money and started to really trying to improve the team, because I've said it in the moving forward series about the Rapids, it looked like they were doom and gloom with the way that the ownership just feels like they're gonna stay being cheap. But nope, it feels like they're not gonna be cheap. They're gonna really go for it. And that again, Zach Steffen, I know it's been a huge fall from grace from Zach Steffen. Remember, he was a regular #1 for this U.S. men's national team, and he was targeted as the guy to replace Tim Howard in that goalkeeping spot with the U.S. men's national team. Yeah, things have definitely not worked out for him. And him joining to Man City, I feel like that was not the right move for him, even though he did get himself a loan deal, and that just really never works out to a point where it'll be interesting to see how he's going to do. And in some way, you could say that this is kind of similar to when the Rapids decided to sign Tim Howard a couple of years ago. But the big difference is that Tim Howard, when he was with the Rapids in 2016, that was pretty much near the twilight of his career. Zach Steffen, he still has a lot left in the tank, and is a guy that he knows that he wants to improve to a point where he may get a chance to go back to Europe and maybe even get a chance to get back to the U.S. men's national team goalkeeping spot. Whereas for Djordje Mihalovic, again, this is another guy that could be a regular starter in the U.S. men's national team, but he kind of stuttered doing his times at AZ Alkmaar, and I even heard that after he got off to a good start, he kind of started to fell out of favor, and that this is just another example of the players that developed well in MLS, sold off for a big amount of money, but just never really quite worked out. Though I have heard that there is reports saying that Mihalovic want to come back to the States because he actually had some family and personal situation that he wants to be back in the U.S. So yeah, it seems like the Rapids are going to be the team to sign him, and again, we don't know exactly what the club record fee is. Whatever it is, that is a huge upgrade considering what has happened to this Rapids team. I mean, they have not had a good number 10 for a very long time, and getting a guy like Djordje Mihalovic, that is a huge move for this Colorado Rapids team. Now, there's also reports suggesting that Brandon Vasquez is going to move to CF Monterrey, also known as Rayados in Liga MX. Now, I know there's going to be some people are going to be disappointed that Brandon Vasquez did not make his jump to Europe, especially U.S. men's national team fans. But I do think that in the end, it is kind of the right move, considering, last season he definitely stutter in terms of his progression of being a good number 9, and I think him going to Rayados and going into Liga MX is going to give him more of a competitive edge. I mean, I know MLS and Liga MX is pretty much closing the or MLS is definitely closing the gap in terms of Liga MX in terms of competitiveness. But I do believe that Liga MX is still the best league in the CONCACAF region, and also not to mention he's basically joining a team that is going to be a championship caliber team. I mean, Rayados has always been a team that is near the top of the standings for the past couple of years, and that it's not like Brandon Vasquez is going to leave a Cincinnati team that is a competitive team and join a random Liga MX team where he's not going to have success. I think he's going to have success with Rayados, and that's when we're potentially going to see him make a big money move. Though again, I could also understand why Cincinnati fans might be disappointed because they want to be the one that get to get the big money move. Though I think there is going to be a sell on clause where if Rayados does move on from Brandon Vasquez and sell him off to Europe, at least Cincinnati is going to get some of that money back. Now, there is also reports from the Portland Timbers saying that they're looking to sell Evander back to Brazil and trying to send him to Flamengo. Now, from what I heard, it seems like the report is $7 million, which I think that would be crazy. If the Portland Timbers decide to accept that. I mean, I think, especially with the way that they bought him for $10 million, and I know Evander kind of had an underwhelming season last year. I mean, I don't think he had a bad season, and he kind of got better as the season goes along. But the fact that they decided to sell him for $7 million, and especially get a little bit of a net loss in terms of it, like this is basically a move that I think the Timbers would have made if Evander doesn't worked out. And again, I don't think that that's why I said as the season goes along, Evander kind of got a little better, and this is kind of what I thought maybe is a case where players just kind of had some tough time to settling into a new league, but eventually once they adjust, they started to show the potential, and I think Evander definitely showed that potential near the latter part of the season, and to cut ties with him right now after this. I mean, this would be a really strange move, and probably not the right move for the Timbers to get. And again, I think the biggest thing that also doesn't make this a good move, and this is actually what I just said, is the fact that they're gonna get a not net loss out of this if indeed the rumor is true that it seems like it's only a $7 million transfer fee if the Timbers decide to sell Evander to Flamengo. And then Botafogo report to sign RSL midfielder Jefferson Savarino. Now this one, I think it could happen because Jefferson Savarino, he has definitely expressed his frustration with RSL. I mean, remember last season when RSL basically are saying that Jefferson Savarino was unavailable because of injury concern, and then Jefferson Savarino basically they decided to kind of roast his own team and basically decided to call out his own team by saying what injuries that he's suffering on his Twitter page. And that, yeah, again, I think there's definitely need some bridges that is being burned right now between him and RSL, and it's a shame because Savarino, this is a second stint with RSL. He's very well loved in the fan base, and RSL could potentially will have an off season where they would lose two of their fan favorite in Demir Krylak and Jefferson Savarino. But again, I think this could happen because, like I said, Savarino he clearly doesn't seem like he's happy uh, with with his time with RSL, even though this is his second tenure, and we'll see whether or not if they're going to get a bit of a money out of this move as they send him to Botafogo. Now, the Seattle Sounders is also reported to place a $10 million bid to sign midfielder Maurizio from Internacional. So the Seattle Sounders probably saw what the Portland Timbers did last season, decided to throw $10 million in replace of their legendary number 10 in Diego Valeri, and that they decided to copy that homework and basically do the same thing here. So they're trying to replace Nico Ladera with Maurizio. Now, I don't know a lot about this guy. I'm assuming he's probably going to be good because when you offer that much amount for a guy like this, he's probably going to be really good and could be a good replacement for Nico Ladera. But that being said, again, just like what the Portland Timbers are probably going to be warning the Seattle Sounders, the whole Evander deal, as I said, yes, as much as he was better as the season goes along, it doesn't mean that it's going to pay dividends straight away, and you need to have some patience, and especially replacing a legend like Nico Ladera, that is not going to be easy whatsoever. So yeah, we'll see whether or not if this deal is going to do, and we'll see whether or not if Maurizio is going to be kind of similar to what we saw with Evander last season with the Portland Timbers. Eventually, he's going to get better as the season goes along, or is it going to be just an instant bang, and that's going to annoy every Western Conference team that, oh, yeah, we don't have to deal with Nico Ladero anymore. Oh wait, now we got this new guy called Maurizio that could be just as good as Nico Ladero. And the Seattle Sounders is also looking to acquire Argentine winger Pedro de la Vega. Now, I have heard people say that this is the Raul Ruidiaz replacement, and I would say it's kind of indirectly a Raul Ruidiaz replacement because I think it's pretty clear that Jordan Morris is now going to be playing in that number 9 spot, and it feels like they need a winger as a result sort of that, and it seems like they're gonna get this guy that I have heard that there's some big things about this guy. He could be a really good player in MLS. And again, the Sounders they have had a history in terms of signing these players in South America, and turns out to be a big hit. So I won't be surprised this could be the case, and of course keep them the current core that they had. Again, this Sounders team, this is a team that there's a reason why they are considered one of the more successful teams for the past decade. This is a team that always find a way to go through a transitional period really smoothly to a point where they're going to be continue to be a regular contender in the Western Conference. And it feels like we're starting to see a new core that is forming in for the Seattle Sounders team if they decided to sign both of these players. Now, Atlanta United, there are reports that they are going to be linked with Norwegian international center back Stian Gregerson from Bordeaux. Now, keep in mind, Bordeaux last season was not great. They gave up like 90 plus goal last season in 38 games, and that again, this is clearly a replacement for Miles Robinson. And again, I don't know if this is considered to be a good replacement. Again, a lot of people are saying that he's part of that team that can see 90 plus goal, and when you get a guy that were part of the leakiest defense in France, and probably one of the leakiest defense in the world. I mean, give up 90 plus goal in 38 games. That is just insane. That's like almost 3 goals every single game. But that just kind of also highlight how bad Bordeaux has been, and they're also one of those club that has been mentioned a lot around the world. That's kind of like almost a fallen giant. I mean, I know Bordeaux is not considered to be a giant in France soccer, though they did win League Up back in 2008, and that this or actually it's not 2008. I know they won it in the 2000s, but they're a team that is regularly considered to be a good team in league. So to see them kind of disintegrate, something similar to what we see with Ajax this season, although I think Ajax is getting better. And then I think a great example of another French team that is having a problem is Lyon. Lyon, a team that has been considered to be one of the giant in French soccer, but it's started to fall apart, and it just kind of just shows you how Liga is having some problem in terms of all these big name club that is not named PSG, because PSG is still the most experienced team in French football, started to fall apart. And that again, going back to this, again, I don't know if this is a good replacement. We'll see whether or not if this is a good replacement. I mean, last time I've seen a Norwegian center back came into the league. I mean, that guy was called Ruben Gabrielson, and he turns out to be a huge part of that Austin FC team. And that this is also where I unfortunately have to mention that, yeah, Austin fans are probably still regretting the fact that they decided to let go of Gabrielson, and that's a spot they still have not replaced him. So again, we'll see whether or not if this is going to be a good move, or is this going to be bad, because of the way that, again, Atlanta is a team that has had defensive problem the last couple of years, and we'll see whether if this is going to fix it, or is it just going to make it get worse. And then the New England Revolution is set to sign Jonathan Mensah off of free agency. So, I mentioned before with Jonathan Mensah, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not if there's another team going to give him a chance. And it feels like the New England Revolution is that team. And it makes sense because, he's going to be reunited with Caleb Porter. As Caleb Porter when he was with Columbus, Jonathan Mensah was a big part of his defensive reinforcement. But as I said before, as a Quakes fan, Jonathan Mensah really fall off the map, and I think Crew fans even warned Quakes fans about Jonathan Mensah, where he's not the same as he was a couple of years ago, and that I do think that he's probably not going to be a regular starter. I mean, this Revs team, they do have a relatively good defense, although the big concern last season is that they just couldn't keep anybody healthy last year. So yeah, getting a depth piece with Jonathan Mensah, I think that's not a bad signing, even though you shouldn't be playing him as a regular starter because he has really fall off these last couple of years. And then Brazilian club for Fortaleza, again, another Brazilian team. What did I tell you about how it seems like there's a partnership between Serie A team or not? Yeah, Brazilian Serie A team and MLS this last couple of days. So there's a report that's saying that they are going to try to get Lutinas, and that again we'll see whether or not if this will happen, because Lutinas, he was very underwhelming last season, and we'll see whether if the Red Bulls maybe just cut ties with him and maybe even open a DP spot as a result of it. And then Danish club AC Horsen is reported to link with Whitecaps forward Simon Betcher. So Simon Betcher is kind of a guy that, I remember back in the early part last season, he really blossomed into this scene. And there's even a lot of people saying that, wow, it seems like he's probably going to keep Brian White out of that number 9 spot. he did not kept Brian White out of that number nine spot. I mean, he besides that incredible start that he has in his career, he really didn't get too much minutes. Really kind of fell down the pecking order. So we'll see whether or not if he's gonna continue to get more minutes for the Whitecaps, or is he gonna decide to go to Europe and again joining a club that I have never heard but before. And of course, if you're an AC Horseman fan and you're watching this video, I apologize. The fact that I'm saying that I have never heard of this club before because yeah, I've never heard of them. And when you see MLS players go to unknown kind of team, it doesn't usually work out well, especially in the Scandinavian region. And then lastly, in terms of this News of the Week episode, as we're pretty much done, we talk about the players that is moving or coming in, or there's reports saying it, is that we have more third kit leak from Footy Headlines. So Footy Headlines is the site that always give like these third kit leaks that potentially teams are gonna release, and it seems like this last couple of days they have announced that the Galaxy and Inter Miami is releasing their third kit, and I have a picture of that. In fact, this is the LA Galaxy third kit. Now, I've said before in my video about talk about the third kits, I would really want to see the Galaxy decided to go with a Cosmo kind of theme of third kit, but they decided not to do so. They decided to kind of go with a 1997 kind of version of it, and I get it. You know, you want to celebrate, yeah, your history and want to bring back those jersey as a retro kind of feeling. But again, it just feels like they could have done something different. I mean, we already have some of these retro kit that the Galaxy have released. I feel like they should have done something more creative. And then in terms of Inter Miami, this is the third kit that they're going to release. And honestly, I'm very disappointed that if this is going to be the third kit that is going to be released. Because one, the Royal Caribbean sponsor logo, it looks really out of place. And especially with the Inter Miami logo, I never like logos that is kind of like in the center of it. I know LAFC did that, and the Chicago Fire also did that before we won their jersey. But I just feel like that's kind of out of place. And again, it's also just as out of place as the Royal Caribbean logo, which it just doesn't really quite fit very well. And not to mention, this jersey looks really similar to the one that they the home kit that they had, I think back in 2022, if I'm not mistaken. That pink home kit, I feel like that's very underwhelming, and I feel like this is why I've said this in my third kit video or third kit idea for every single MLS team video, where they have to go with a third kit that has some Miami Vice kind of kind of tribute. They should have gone with a turquoise color or a teal color of a jersey, because that's that. I mean, that just screams Miami, basically. Heck, I wouldn't even be surprised if they go with a purple jersey too, because it kind of gives that Miami kind of vibe, that 1980s kind of Miami vibe that you usually see, that synthwave kind of vibe that you usually see that is associated with Miami. So the fact that they decided to go with another pink kit that they already wear before as their third kit, very disappointing. And this is also another reason why a lot of people are still slandering Adidas in terms of the way that they release jerseys to MLS team, because they have not done a great job of it, or at times they just decide to recycle ideas that they've done in the past and say, well, let's call that a third kit, because we can't come up with any more fresh idea, even though I just did a video talking about that, and I did a video talk about all the good ideas that they could have created for these third kits for these MLS teams. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of this video. As always, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this video? And again, if there's any news I didn't mention here on the board, let me know in the comments below. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.